March Madness is finally coming to a close, and the Final Four is really not what we expected going into the tournament. It is honestly the complete opposite. I think there was a stat that only 37 out of the ESPN Tournament Challenge brackets predicted the Final Four to be correct. Now, the Final Four teams are FAU, San Diego State, UConn, and Miami. No number one seeds, as they all went out before the Elite Eight. The highest seed that's remaining is UConn. This is setting up for a very, very fun Final Four to watch. Now, three of these teams have never made the Final Four before, so one team will have their first ever national championship appearance. So now I'm going to go over my biggest winners and losers from the second weekend of March Madness for the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 rounds. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, the first major winner that I have is Markquis Nowell. He's the point guard from Kansas State, stands at 5'8", and is a demon. Now, I wasn't really too familiar with him, and that's my apologies. I should have known more about him going into this tournament with a team like Kansas State being the team that they are. But he really put himself on the map. He was already putting up All-American numbers and then doubled it and just put it to a whole nother level coming into this tournament. Now, against Michigan State, he had 20 points and 19 assists. 19 assists is a NCAA tournament record in a single game, and I believe he has the most assists throughout an entire tournament in NCAA history. I have to check that again, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Now, the offense near the end stretches of the game against FAU did put up a dud, but Markquis Nowell had 30 and 12 in that game. You can't put that on Markquis Nowell. He is a beast. There was a play in the Michigan State game where he's just looking at his coach, just arguing with his coach, but right before that, he said, and I quote, "Watch this shit," to Isaiah Thomas. Pistons legend Isaiah Thomas just goes, "Watch this shit," and just argues with his coach and just throws a beautiful lob to Keontae Johnson. Every pass just seemed to be just perfectly on point, and it was a lot of fun to watch Markquis Nowell in that game. And even in the FAU game, he was still super fun to watch. Now, I have to put him in this tier again. One of my losers is one seeds. This is the first time in tournament history since they expanded to the field of 64 that a one seed has failed to reach the Elite Eight. It's never happened before. Houston obviously losing to Miami being in the Final Four now, and Alabama losing to San Diego State, who are also in the Final Four. They lost to two Final Four teams, but really it was kind of unprecedented. Alabama was one of the favorites coming into this tournament, most people's national championship pick. It was mine as well due to the fact of their defense being so good to fall back on with their offense. But it just kind of looked like they couldn't stop anything against San Diego State, no matter what they ran, little mid-range jumpers, getting to the bucket. They weren't really hitting a lot of three-pointers, but they just kept getting to the basket. And also another loser that kind of falls into this category is Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller's efficiency throughout the entire tournament was awful. Didn't score in the first round game against Texas A&M Chris DeCorpy, and then in the second round game, he did have 19 points on 5 of 17 shooting. That's horrific. And then in the final game, on 3 of 17 shooting, he had 9 points. For one of the guys who's supposed to be one of the best shooters in the country, that was just an atrocious performance throughout the entire tournament, not even just one game to send the team home. He didn't help his team at all during the tournament. Now, another one of my big winners that's honestly really, really surprised me is UConn. I didn't think that they were going to be this good going into the tournament. They did pick up coming tournament time, and I thought they could help make it at least the Sweet 16. I didn't expect them to make a Final Four run, but Adam... What's his name? What is his name? Adam Sanogo? Jordan Hawkins led this UConn team throughout that whole Elite Eight game. He got 21 points. He got 20 points on 6 of 10 shooting from 3, and he has been pretty much their rock all season. Adam Sanogo also played very solidly, and throughout the entire tournament, he led them through the first 2 rounds. This UConn team is really scary to deal with, and honestly, they're the powerhouse of the teams remaining, besides Miami, who they have to play. So what's crazy is that either San Diego State or FAU will make the Final Four. Will make the Final Four. Will make the championship. This tournament has been so fun to watch, and this is what I've kind of really expected with the past few years, how college basketball has played out in terms of NIL money, making other colleges that aren't usually as likely to get more top tier talent, such as Miami in a sense, because of the environment that they have and the coaching that they have, that it creates for these smaller schools to have a chance. And then transfer portal, you can find guys who are already like college ready players and they've already played in tough conferences and get them to elite level schools and also make an impact there. The transfer portal, or even vice versa, with bigger talent going to smaller schools just to get more playing time, get more opportunity, get more film. It's kind of really incredible to see, and I expect this trend to continue for college basketball for a little bit. Like last year's Final Four was Kansas, North Carolina, Duke, and Villanova. 4 college basketball blue bloods. And what do we have this year? We have Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, Miami, and UConn. UConn being the only team to make a Final Four, let alone win a national championship. So somebody will be making their first NCAA championship appearance and possibly winning their first ever championship. Now, am I going to be lame and pick UConn to win? No, I'm going to pick Miami just simply because of the depth that they have in their roster, and if they win, Georgia Tech gets more money in sense, even though I really don't want Miami to win. I think that their roster is very unentertaining to watch, and Isaiah Wong is very overrated. But Nigel Pack and Norchad Omier are just as important to this team, and if not more important than Isaiah Wong. Isaiah Wong is just kind of the glue. He just kind of does everything, but like he doesn't stand out. Nobody on the Miami team stands out truly to me except Nigel Pack really this season. Isaiah Wong's been super underwhelming to watch for me. It's not saying that he's a bad player or he's done bad things this season. It's just been unentertaining to watch, if that makes sense. I hope UConn wins it, or I hope someone from the other side of either FAU or San Diego State wins it. That'll be huge for non-Power 5 teams, non-Power 5 schools, non-Power 5 conferences, if one of those schools were to win it. And it just massively improves the notoriety of those schools. FAU is a really, really well-built, cohesive unit. Okay, now I ranted off about those teams for way too long. So let's get back on track. One of my losers is Gonzaga. They almost blew the lead against UCLA. That showed a lot of cracks, and then just got destroyed against UConn. UConn is becoming one of the most informed teams, but Gonzaga is supposed to be one of the best teams in the country every single year. And yes, they did make it to an Elite Eight, but their offense is going to fizzle out at some point. They almost blew a huge lead within like a minute to UCLA, and that showed that they should have blown it if they weren't saved by Julian Strawther on the Villanova play. Now, one of my biggest winners is still going to be Rodney Terry. He is the Texas interim head coach, who I really do hope gets the job as the head coach. He did a phenomenal job at Texas this year. I believe this was their first ever Elite Eight appearance. And he's still the interim. He doesn't even have that label changed. And I don't know what Texas is waiting for. You get one of your most recent 25-win seasons, like in a long time. You get an Elite Eight appearance. You get a Big 12 championship. What more do you want from this interim? He keeps proving. And yes, he didn't make the Final Four, especially with the weakness of some of the other teams that have been left. But he deserves that job at Texas, especially with all the nonsense that they went through with Chris Beard this season. He should get the job as the head coach. So let me know your Final Four thoughts down below. Like, give your predictions, what you've seen throughout this entire tournament. Really, if you feel like there's any other winners and losers that I might have missed. I'm going to be doing a little bit more Final Four coverage as the week progresses, and maybe other tournament storylines and stories that have happened throughout. So yeah, that's about it. See ya. Like, subscribe.